Who are you? Sooner was not polite to the man and said calmly. She took a faint step forward and protected Xiao Yan behind her. This man is not very old. He seems to be around 24 or 5 years old. He has an extremely handsome appearance. Even Lin Shuya, the most handsome person in the inner courtyard, is inferior to the others. Moreover, his temperament is stable and his aura is strong, which is stronger than some of the remaining people. But to Xiao Yan, this was nothing, and his first impression of this person was not very good. Even though Xiao Yan was too lazy to do anything to Sooner for Sooner's sake, he would not let such a person bully him. Hearing Sooner's words, the man in black and purple robes stiffened slightly, but the next moment he quickly raised his hands and said respectfully to Sooner, "Miss Sooner, I am the new deputy commander of the Black Annihilation Army, Ling Quan. I am ordered by the clan leader to take the young lady back." Although Ling Quan was respectful, Sooner didn't have a good look towards him. Instead, he shouted directly at him. "I said I would go back when the time comes, so why do you have to come all the way here?" Hearing Sooner's unkind words, Ling Quan did not hold on, but threw the blame on the older generation of the ancient tribe. After all, for people like them, offending Sooner is really detrimental to them. "Miss Sooner, these are all orders from the Presbyterian Council, and we are just acting in accordance with the orders." It's just that Ling Quan had a gentle smile. After saying this, he looked at Xiao Yan, who was standing behind Sooner. There was some inexplicable hostility in his eyes, as if he was inadvertent and faint. Said, "This person must be the young master of the Xiao family. Why are you so ignorant of the rules?" "Oh, I forgot. After all, he comes from a remote family in the northwest continent. It is natural for him to be vulgar and ignorant of etiquette." After hearing Ling Quan's words, Xiao Yan's face immediately turned cold. He has a good impression of the ancient clan, and apart from Sooner's factor, some of them also treat Xiao Yan well. It's okay to insult him and look down on him. This is just the jealousy of young people. Xiao Yan can understand it if he lives a new life, and he can also defeat them with his strength. But if you say you despise the Xiao family, look down upon, or even insult the people around you, then that's a different story. In his previous life, Xiao Yan stood up to those who dared to insult his mentor, even if they were one of the 8 ancient tribes. In front of everyone, they almost defeated their Dou Xing elder. In this life, the same is true. I see that you are young and not strong in cultivation, but you speak very arrogantly." Because of Sooner's face, Xiao Yan did not completely intend to break up with Ling Quan, but glanced at him and then said such a sentence calmly. Before Ling Quan could get angry, Xiao Yan directly revealed the soul Wia without any hindrance. Like a meteorite falling from the sky, it hit them directly. Boom! The unbearable pressure was immediately released. Ling Xuan's expression changed immediately, his body swayed, and he almost failed to stand still, but even so, he took a few steps back. The faces of the people behind Ling Quan also changed in unison, and they took a few steps back. Xiao Yan was also a little surprised. He was worthy of being the genius of the younger generation of the ancient clan. Even though he was a Dou Huang, he could remain calm in the face of the pressure of high-level Douzong. The coercion disappeared in a flash, and Xiao Yan glanced at Ling Quan indifferently. Regardless of the other party's expression that looked like pig liver, he continued to speak like a last-ditch attack. "Before you speak, recognize your own strength, otherwise you will only make people laugh." Afterwards, Xiao Yan stopped caring about Ling Quan, and the latter knew that he had suffered a big loss. Not only that, but he was even more shocked by the strength Xiao Yan showed now. Is it possible that the secret ancestor of the Xiao family did not fall in that turmoil? Otherwise, how could this boy have such strength at such an age? Ling Quan secretly thought that he no longer dared to show any contempt for Xiao Yan. After Xiao Yan had intimidated him, he no longer cared about his thoughts. Instead, he looked at Sooner with a gentle smile. Said, "Don't worry, Sooner, I had already expected you to leave. I just didn't expect it to come so soon. Oh, by the way, since you gave me a gift before, I will give you one as a gift in return." After the words fell, Xiao Yan didn't wait for Sooner to refuse, then rubbed his fingers on the ring, and then a broken jade piece fell into Xiao Yan's hands. On that jade piece, there are sporadic light spots. This piece of jade is the patriarch's token passed down to this day from the Xiao family. However, it also has an even more shocking name, which is only spread among the 8 ancient tribes. This is Tuasha Ancient Emperor Jade? There was a hint of shock in Sunur's beautiful eyes. One of the tasks she was sent to the Xiao family was to find this object, but she didn't expect that Xiao Yan would send it directly to her. Xiao Yan was not surprised at all by Sunur's surprise. After all, it was natural for her to get excited when such a shocking thing was thrown to them. Xiao Yan's decision to hand over the Tuasha Ancient Emperor Jade and return it to the ancient clan was not a temporary decision, but a conclusion he came to after a long period of careful consideration. In the previous life, this ancient jade fell into my hands, and I have been holding it because it has the soul light spot belonging to my father. I need this broken Tuasha Ancient Emperor Jade to exchange it for myself from the hands of the Soul Palace. Father's life. In this life, the Soul Palace's plan will be completely wiped out by Xiao Yan in its embryonic stage. This also resulted in the Tuasha Ancient Emperor Jade not being used at all, not to mention that he also knew where the Ancient Emperor's cave was. Whoever got all the ancient jade would be able to block the door when the time came. In addition, there are also traitors from the Soul Clan within the ancient clan. The news that he had handed over the fragments of the Tuasha Ancient Emperor Jade to the ancient clan this time would naturally be passed on to the Soul Clan. In this way, the Soul Palace will be diverted from focusing on small forces like the Xiao family in the northwest continent. In this way, Xiao Yan will also have the opportunity to develop his own power and strength in secret. In addition, it can be considered as giving yourself some extra free time to recover from the injuries on the soul of the Emperor realm. Let your strength recover a little bit, and then you will have a little more self-protection power, and you can dig various relics in advance. Why not kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Unexpectedly, after searching for so many years, Tuasha Ancient Emperor Jade turns out to be in the hands of brother Xiao Yan. Sunur's heart suddenly felt melancholy and mixed feelings. The original purpose of coming to Zhao's house was this thing, but now that she has actually obtained it, Sunur is a little at a loss. Besides, I don't seem to have told brother Xiao Yan about this matter. How did he know about it? In addition, Sunur still had some doubts in her heart, but she soon felt relieved and attributed this reason to the mysterious soul body next to Xiao Yan. That person is probably Master Yao, whose reputation is well known throughout the Dou Qi continent. He is from the Yao clan. It is not surprising to know this information. Thinking of this, Sunur felt moved in her heart, and her eyes looking at Xiao Yan once again became a little more gentle. To be able to hand over such precious items to him, it is obvious that Sunur's status in brother Xiao Yan's heart is also very important. In this case, he cannot be sorry for him, both emotionally and rationally. Taking a deep breath, regardless of the slight changes in the faces of the black destroyers around him, Sunur immediately looked at Xiao Yan solemnly, then covered the ancient jade to his chest and said, "Brother Xiao Yan, don't worry, I will take good care of the things you give me." Following Sunur's promise, Xiao Yan also smiled gently and then put his hand on Sunur's head again, rubbing it gently. Feeling the soft hair running through his fingertips, Xiao Yan was reluctant to let go. He put down his hand and then, under the astonished eyes of Sunur and Ling Quan and others who were watching around him, he directly pulled Sunur into his arms and finally gave her a big hug and whispered, "Sunur, wait for me, I will go find you. I don't care how huge and terrifying the power behind you is, you are mine. If you can't fight the Supreme, then fight the Saint, and if you can't fight the Saint, fight the Emperor. Trust me." The two said goodbye, and the people of the ancient tribe who had eaten too much dog food around them finally hurriedly invited Sunur to the 4-winged unicorn after Xiao Yan let go of Sunur, and then left in a hurry. Even being coerced by Xiao Yan, the shocked Ling Quan looked at him deeply and left without saying anything. They can't stand this kind of dog food attack. After they left, Xiao Yan also raised his head and looked at it from a distance. It wasn't until those little black dots completely disappeared from the horizon that he quietly stopped looking and finally let out a long breath with a look on his face. With a little melancholy. Shaking his head and pushing aside these suppressed emotions, Xiao Yan turned his head, looked into the void, and said lightly, "Great Elder, is this scene good to watch? This is the territory of the inner courtyard of Canaan College. Although Ling Quan and others are very powerful, it is impossible to enter without the permission of Su Qian and other inner courtyard elders, and it is impossible to open the space lock." Xiao Yan knew that the mysterious dean behind Canaan College was also a figure from the 8 ancient tribes. He was naturally aware of these slow twists and turns. As Xiao Yan's words fell, a ripple in space flashed through, and then an old man with a slightly embarrassed face appeared from midair. He coughed lightly, as if to cover up something, and said lightly, "When outsiders come, I will naturally keep an eye on you. I didn't mean to come and see you and that little girl chirping at me." Xiao Yan didn't care how long Su Qian had been looking at him. Anyway, he had sensed it since the latter came. He wanted to hide his figure in front of Xiao Yan, but Dozeng was still a little bit behind. "Great Elder, after some time, I also plan to leave the inner courtyard." Turning his head, Xiao Yan looked at the sky and said calmly. Su Qian was slightly startled after hearing his words, and then stood with his hands behind his hands. After a long time, he quietly said, "That's right. With your strength, the inner court can't provide you with any help at all. It doesn't matter if you leave early. If you start exploring earlier, your strength will improve faster." Su Qian had already had a premonition that Xiao Yan was about to leave the inner courtyard after Xiao Yan had captured the fallen heart flame. After all, facing such a real dragon, it was still difficult for the small pond of Canaan College to control him. Sooner or later, he would toward a broader sky. The northwest continent is too barren and not conducive to my development. With my talent, it is too restrictive. Xiao Yan said lightly, now in the entire inner courtyard, apart from Yao Lao, only Su Qian in front of him can let Xiao Yan talk. "Before I leave, I will go to the Black Corner territory to clean up everything I need to do next. Great Elder, you can also prepare people and be prepared." After the words fell, Xiao Yan did not stop here again. He stepped out and felt as if he had entered an illusory space door. After faint ripples appeared in the void, the whole person disappeared into the original place. Land. Su Qian's brows furrowed, then relaxed, and she thought a little, her eyes full of shock, and everything before was connected. It turns out that Xiao Yan, you kid, is the guy who caused trouble in the Black Corner domain before. No wonder. After having an affair with Su Qian, Xiao Yan was not idle either. He once again got together with his old friends in the inner courtyard. After getting very drunk, he went to find Ziyan again and talked to her about the medicinal materials. The management warehouse stayed for a short time, battling wits and courage with Elder Hao, and finally fled in a hurry with a lot of medicinal materials. Xiao Yan was not polite and refined all the medicinal materials into pills for Ziyan. After sending Ziyan away, Xiao Yan also sighed longly and walked towards the cotton inside and outside the inner courtyard. In today's inner courtyard, even the resources brought by the strong ranking competition cannot provide Xiao Yan with anything. There are still a lot of old friends here. If I remember correctly, Bodhi's incarnation should have appeared in the Black Angle domain. Xiao Yan murmured to himself, with some inexplicable light flickering in his eyes. In the previous life, he came to the Black Horn territory for the second time and seized the Bodhi incarnation saliva from the Black Emperor sect. Gods of heaven and earth. He can't help but improve his physique, and is one of the main materials to help the little medical fairy control the poisonous body of disaster. In addition, the most important point is that this Bodhi body saliva is related to the legendary ancient Bodhi tree. When he thought of this, a beautiful figure in white clothes flashed past in Xiao Yan's mind, and then a melancholy came to his mind involuntarily. "Little medical fairy, I don't know how you are spending this time." After shaking his head and leaving some emotions behind, Xiao Yan identified the direction of Black Imperial City, and his whole body turned into a stream of light and flew towards there quickly. Xiao Yan kept flying according to the route in his memory. About an hour later, the sun began to set on the other side, and the city at the end of the avenue suddenly came into view of Xiao Yan. The Black Imperial City lives up to its name, and its majestic scale does not make the word emperor eclipse it. The pitch-black city wall that stretches to the end has a cold smell. The sunlight poured down, even making the black city wall reflect a faint light like a mirror. The walls of the entire city are made of extremely precious black stones. Even if a Dou Wang-level strongman bombards them with all their strength, it is difficult to cause damage. Seeing such an extremely luxurious configuration again, even Xiao Yan couldn't help but feel slightly amazed. Sure enough, it's still as generous as in memory. Xiao Yan sighed lightly, not wasting much time on this point. Instead, he quietly let out his soul power, then quietly enveloped the entire Black Imperial City, and then began to scan along it. Soon, as Xiao Yan scanned, targets were gradually eliminated one by one. After about 5 minutes, Xiao Yan, whose eyes were slightly closed, suddenly opened his eyes, then raised his head and looked towards the Black Imperial City. On a hill outside. Got you. Xiao Yan murmured to himself, then no longer hesitated, and suddenly tapped his feet. His whole body turned into a stream of light and flew towards that place without stopping. In the deep mountains and dense forests, there is a small valley in a place that was originally deserted. Deep in the valley, there is a quiet cabin. If you don't observe carefully, you may not be able to detect its existence at all. An old man in yellow robes, just like an ordinary person, wearing a bamboo hat, sat cross-legged by the lake, with the boom in his hand hanging down into the lake, leisurely and contented. Beside the old man, a man in the wooden barrel, there were several carp. What a leisurely and contented picture, just like a real old man fishing. If they didn't know the true identity of the old fishing man, I'm afraid everyone would be fooled by him. Sect Master Mo is quite old, but he is really unique in his leisure and elegance. I admire him. Suddenly, a faint word sounded from the sky above the valley. With the blessing of fighting spirit, it quickly condensed towards the old man. However, the strange thing was that no outsiders seemed to notice the sound, not even the people in the lake. The fish were not frightened by this. Who is it? However, the old man himself, or Mo Tianqing, did suddenly change his expression at this moment, suddenly raised his head, and then saw a young figure in black robes, unabashedly standing with his hands behind his back, walking in the air. Walking slowly towards him. With his back to the sun, under Mo Tianqing's gaze, he looked like a real god walking in the world, which no one could desecrate. Just call me Xiao Yan. I'm here just for one thing. Please don't embarrass me, sect leader Mo. Xiao Yan stood with his hands behind his back, his soul aura faintly penetrated his body, and with an oppressive power, it swept towards Mo Tianqing below. Although Mo Tianqing is quite strong and can be regarded as a dominant figure in the Black Corner domain, his strength at the 3-star dozing level is considered to be the limit when he comes into contact with Elder Su Qian. Facing Xiao Yan, it is basically impossible. Not enough. Hearing Xiao Yan's words and feeling the terrifying power on his body again, Mo Tianqing couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. His thoughts were spinning rapidly in his head, and he quickly focused on one thing. Your Excellency, could it be that you want the body of Bodhi? Narrowing his eyes, Mo Tianqing did not hide the existence of the news, but quietly spoke and said it bluntly. After all, he couldn't think of anything else in his body, other than the Bodhi body saliva he had just obtained, that would be worthy of inducing such a young Dozong master to personally take action and come to discuss with him. The other party was so sure that he blocked the door directly. I am afraid that he has already obtained the exact information. There is no point in concealing it again. That's it. I hope sect leader Mo won't embarrass me. Xiao Yan was slightly surprised by Mo Tianqing's honesty, but then he thought of how cunning this person was. He might have sensed danger and wanted to take advantage of the situation and send this hot potato away. Seeing Xiao Yan's admission, Mo Tianqing pondered for a moment and then looked at Xiao Ning. The aura faintly revealed in the other person's body made Mo Tianqing feel extremely threatened. I'm afraid one of them is not good. People will take action violently. At his age, he is only as good as a Samsung Dozong, so it is obviously unwise to take action against him. Mo Tianqing's heart was bleeding, but compared with his own life, although this Bodhi body saliva was important, it was nothing. For you. A little cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Mo Tianqing rubbed the ring on his finger and took out a box with a crystal texture. In the box, there was some thick light green liquid flowing, which contained indescribable contents. Xiao Yan recognized the breath of life at a glance. This was Bodhi's incarnation saliva. Throwing it to Xiao Yan, a look of heartache clearly flashed across Mo Tianqing's face, and Xiao Yan also took it. After weighing it, I confirmed it was true and put it away. Not bad. Nodding slightly, Xiao Yan stared at Mo Tianqing closely, then took out a small jade bottle from the ring, threw it to the ladder from a distance, then turned around and stepped out, as if walking into the void. Among them, there were only ripples in the space that fluctuated like water, and the back that disappeared like an illusion. Boy, I am not taking it by force. This thing is the 6th grade Pinnacle Elixir Pazong Dan. It should be the price of this transaction. Sect Master Mo, just remember, don't provoke Canaan College. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Yan's figure disappeared, leaving Mo Tianqing standing there stunned and sweating profusely. High in the sky, Xiao Yan was flying very fast, and the scenery was constantly retreating in his field of vision. An inexplicable and cold light flashed in his eyes. Although the Black Emperor sect had some problems with him in the previous life, there was no fundamental conflict between the two parties, and the latter finally gave in. Therefore, Xiao Yan would not bother to kill the Black Emperor sect and Mo Tianqing if they knew each other. Hold accountable. But Xiao Yan will not let go of the next target, Demon Flame Valley, easily. When he thought of what the latter had done, a faint coldness flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes, and a trace of evil aura appeared in his eyes involuntarily. Demonic Flame Valley, a veteran force in the Black Corner territory, was also the leader in the last battle between the Black Corner territory and Canaan College. Its power is extremely powerful and can be called the 2nd largest power in the Black Corner region. Compared to Canaan College, which has no dean, it is only slightly inferior. Compared to the Black Emperor sect, in Xiao Yan's heart, there are several people in Demon Flame Valley who can be said to be on the must-kill list. They have nothing to do with Canaan College. In the previous life, they not only attacked and killed the students and elders of Canaan College, but also united with major forces and Han Feng to attack Xiao Yan and the people around him. Second rate. Putting Xiao Yan, who was not that powerful in his previous life, into a life and death crisis. In the end, the Demon Flame Valley ancestor, Demon Old Ghost, was so angry that he personally took action and rushed to Canaan College. Together with Han Feng and others, he wanted to put Xiao Yan to death without caring about the face of his predecessors. If Xiao Yan hadn't possessed the trump card, was that by the time Qianbai Erlao, the 2 guardians of Canaan Academy, came out of seclusion, they would have already died. It was impossible for Xiao Yan not to avenge such a deep hatred. In the demonic Flame Valley, in a secret room, an old man wearing luxurious robes sat cross-legged in a quiet secret room. His hands formed the marks of cultivation. His breath was filled with energy that was so rich that it was visible to the naked eye. With every breath he took, it was absorbed into his body. This person's aura is quite extraordinary. Upon closer inspection, he is probably at the peak level of the Dou Huang and is only 1 step away from the Dozong realm. Just when he took another breath and vaguely grasped the opportunity for breakthrough, suddenly a violent earthquake and mountain shaking suddenly came, followed by a terrifying explosion. Boom! Like a mountain collapsing, the old man in luxurious robes who was still in seclusion was immediately awakened, with a look of shock and anger on his face, and the feeling of breakthrough that he had finally grasped disappeared again. His feet suddenly clicked, his fighting spirit wings spread out behind him, and he flew out of the cave in a few flashes, and soon stood on the top of the mountain. Beside him, there were several elders with fighting spirit wings spread out. Slowly, he fell slowly, with a puzzled look on his face. These people don't seem to understand the situation. What is going on? The moment they looked at each other, a voice suddenly sounded from high in the sky, with an extremely arrogant look, and the voice spread with fighting spirit. This sound was like rolling thunder, covering most of the Demon Flame Valley. Haha, you people from Demon Flame Valley are finally willing to get out and stop being cowards here? Many elders of the Demon Flame Valley suddenly raised their heads and saw a figure standing high in the sky with hands behind their hands. Judging from his face, he looked quite young, and behind him, there were a bunch of purple wings that were constantly flapping. What cats and dogs dare to break into my demonic flame valley? The leader of the old man in luxurious robes, Fang Yan, the great elder of Demon Flame Valley, narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the figure with fighting spirit wings raised on his back in the sky. Then he twitched the corners of his mouth slightly and shouted in a low voice, "Is the Demon Flame Valley a place where you can come and leave whenever you want?" Suddenly, he shouted loudly, his voice like rolling thunder, mixed with a little anger, filling most of the Demon Flame Valley, and said, "Disciples of Demon Flame Valley, listen to the order and capture this person and bring him to me." As Fang Yan's roar fell, on several peaks below, more than a dozen figures with vindictive wings behind their backs suddenly tapped their feet, and the whole person leaped up. Each of them had a cruel look on their face. Judging from their strength, they are all at the level of Dou Wang. Looking at the group of Demon Flame Valley disciples who were surrounding him, Xiao Yan's eyes also flashed with a touch of evil spirit. Then he didn't see any movement, but suddenly tapped his feet and then shouted in a low voice, "Oh, so majestic." As he finished speaking, Xiao Yan grabbed hold of the huge black iron ruler behind him, and it fell into his hands. Then in full view of the crowd, Xiao Yan's hand was seen stroking the ruler, and as he stroked it, red flames also burned on the dark iron ruler, and in an instant it turned into a heavy flame. "Ruler, let me show you what despair means." Xiao Yan's eyes flashed with anger, and without any hesitation, he immediately waved the iron ruler downwards and shouted loudly, "The flame-devouring wave ruler, break it for me." The blazing light, which was more than 10 feet long, immediately flew out, struck from top to bottom, and landed on the heads of many Demon Flame Valley Fighting King disciples with frightening power. "Don't panic, everyone. Let's work together to subdue him." Some Demon Flame Valley disciples calmly commanded, and then dozens of Demon Flame Valley disciples all used their own fighting skills. In an instant, there were more than a dozen Dou Qi streams of different colors piercing the space and heading towards the Qi light. However, the next second, a shocking scene appeared. I saw those fighting skills under the attack of Qi Mang. After a brief stalemate for less than a second, they were destroyed like a torrent. Pfft. Those demonic Flame Valley disciples spurted out a mouthful of blood on the spot, turned pale, and fell back. As for the leader of the demonic Flame Valley disciples, he had no time to dodge and was immediately slashed by Qi Mang and turned into two halves. The charred corpse fell from the sky. "Damn guy, let's attack together, don't give this guy a chance to breathe." Fang Yan's eyelids trembled slightly, and the attack of more than a dozen Dou Wang disciples was immediately swept away. The opponent's strength exceeded his expectations, but he immediately shouted in a low voice and commanded several Dou Huang-level elders to take action together. After the words fell, his feet suddenly moved, and his whole body turned into a bright stream of light, flying towards the sky. With Fang Yan, the great elder, taking the lead, the remaining 4 or 5 Demon Flame Valley Dou Huang elders did not flinch, and immediately he followed him and flew up, faintly blocking everywhere around Xiao Yan, blocking his escape route. As for the actions of the main elder of Demon Flame Valley, Xiao Yan did not stop him, but stood with his hands behind his back, not timid at all. "Boy, don't even think about running away." Fang Yan sneered, and then the fighting energy condensed on his palm. A palm print that was 7 or 8 feet in size was formed, and with terrifying power, he suddenly struck Xiao Yan. Following his actions, the surrounding Demon Flame Valley Fighting Emperor elders did not hesitate to show off their proud fighting skills at Xiao Yan. Even a strong man at the peak of Dou Huang could not withstand this kind of siege. The corners of Fang Yan's mouth had already raised, and a sneer appeared. He could already foresee how Xiao Yan would die under their attack. However, in the next second, Xiao Yan took a step forward and punched out with great strength and energy. He faced many attacks and shouted at the same time, "Bajabang, break it for me." I saw Xiao Yan's fist, mixed with ferocious power, as well as surging fighting spirit and soul power, directly blasting away the many elders of the Demon Flame Valley who were coming to attack without hesitation. Boom! The next second, there was only a violent explosion, and high in the sky, a large fireball caused by the explosion of fighting energy suddenly appeared in it, mixed with colorful streams of fighting energy, and spread out, looking extremely intense for a while. From time to time, you can still hear a small crackling sound, which sounds as pleasant as something being fried in hot oil. That arrogant boy actually dares to directly receive our attack. Even if he has the cultivation level of the Dou Huang Peak, he will fall into it. When an elder from Demon Flame Valley saw the fireworks erupting in the sky, he immediately raised the corners of his mouth. His wrinkled face trembled slightly and sneered. His strength is not weak, and he has the cultivation level of a 5-star Dou Huang. In his knowledge, except for the few Dou Zone level superpowers in the entire Black Angle region, there is no one who can stop their joint efforts. One strike. Not only that, but beside him, several other elders from Demon Flame Valley also showed the same expression, obviously having the same idea as him. Not quite right. Unlike them, Fang Yan, the great elder of Demon Flame Valley, did not feel the joy of annihilating the enemy. Instead, he was filled with doubts, which made him become a little anxious. His intuition was sharp, and he knew that they had joined forces just now. Every blow hit the guy who suddenly appeared, but there was always a bad feeling in his mind. However, seeing the relaxed expressions of the other Demon Flame Valley elders around him, he couldn't help but feel anxious, and he couldn't help comforting himself in his heart. I'm afraid I'm overthinking it. While several elders of Demon Flame Valley were still discussing how to deal with this matter, a cold and stern voice exploded high in the sky, like rolling thunder, due to the spread of fighting spirit. "You Demon Flame Valley elders, that's all you have?" After the words fell, everyone raised their heads in disbelief, only to see a scene that they would never forget in this life. A strong wind suddenly appeared, swept away, and blew away the explosion. In the center of the huge explosion, a young figure in a black robe stood with his hands behind his back, looking from bottom to top, like a group of lambs waiting to be slaughtered, looking at the people below without emotion. For an instant, the entire demonic flame valley seemed to be extremely silent, as if the mute button had been pressed. Not a single sound was heard. Everyone stared at this scene with their eyes wide open, their minds filled with incredible emotions. Impossible, how could he still be alive? I must have seen it wrong, pinch me quickly. It must be fake. Countless chaotic voices sounded, and soon, a scream full of sorrow and screams came from the mouths of everyone in the Demon Flame Valley, and they shouted with a slightly frightened look. Dozong, he is a strong person in Dozong. Hearing this, Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows lightly, looked at the many elders of Demon Flame Valley below with a little joking, and said calmly, "The answer is wrong, but even if the answer is correct, there is no reward." After the words fell, in full view of everyone, Xiao Yan suddenly took a step forward, and the next second, his figure disappeared in the sky like an illusion. Just when everyone was still panicking about where he had gone, there was suddenly a dull sound, accompanied by a crisp click sound. An elder from the Demon Flame Valley, who was still high in the sky, suddenly jumped out of the high altitude like a cannonball. He flew out from above, smashed downwards, and rushed into a group of demonic Flame Valley disciples, instantly killing and injuring countless people. 1. After the words fell, Xiao Yan took another step forward. The next second, while everyone was panicking, another Demon Flame Valley elder was immediately blown away. His eyes were dim, his breath was weak, and he was unbearable. Following the same method, within 30 seconds, all the elders in Demonic Flame Valley were eliminated by Xiao Yan. He stood with his hands behind his back, stepping on the void. Even his clothes did not have any wrinkles. In front of many disciples in demonic Flame Valley, in his eyes, he looked as terrifying as a real demon from hell. "Who are you, this guy?" High in the sky, Fang Yan gritted his teeth, looked at the calm young figure in black robe in front of him, and spoke slowly with a trembling voice. There was a slight tremor in his voice that he didn't even notice. He knew that with his own strength and speed, he could not compete with the mysterious strong man in front of him, so he could only hope that the other party would show mercy. Fang Yan, the great elder of Demon Flame Valley, right? Xiao Yan looked intently and saw a rickety figure that looked familiar yet mixed with disgust. A chill flashed through his eyes, but he did not act immediately. The reason why Fang Yan was spared was not because of Xiao Yan's mercy, but because he sensed that there was no trace of the old devil within the scope of Demonic Flame Valley. The founder of Demonic Flame Valley was also the one in the Black Angle territory today. The strongest man, if he did not kill him, it would probably be detrimental to Canaan College in the future. Xiao Yan had no reason to let him go, both emotionally and rationally. "Damn it, young man, although you are very strong, do you think that this is the only strength that I, the Demon Flame Valley, have stood in the Black Angle territory for so many years?" Fang Yan looked at Xiao Yan and said fiercely, but his forehead was already covered with fine beads of sweat, and his back was soaked with cold sweat. He knew that if the mysterious young man in front of him made a move, he might not be able to practice even one move. "Can't make it through." Noisy. Faced with Fang Yan's provocation, Xiao Yan was not polite to him. He immediately slapped him in the air and hit him hard on the face, sending him spinning around in the air. "Stand slowly and firmly." On his face, you can see a deep red slap mark, which is extremely conspicuous. "Call out the old demon. I don't have the patience to waste time with you here," Xiao Yan said coldly, and Fang Yan's forehead was covered with cold sweat. His eyes were full of cold and ferocious gazes. The Demon Flame Valley suffered a great disaster today. Once the old devil comes out, he will also suffer a heavy punishment. But now, I don't care about that much anymore. Fang Yan's face was gloomy, and he rubbed his fingers on the ring, took out a bone whistle, and then directly injected fighting energy into it and blew it. Suddenly, a shrill sound was triggered from the bone whistle and spread rapidly. As the sound of the bone whistle spread, Xiao Yan could also feel that a silent aura suddenly aroused from the mountain behind the Demon Flame Valley. Boom! After a few more seconds, a fierce wave suddenly aroused. The back mountain of Demonic Flame Valley exploded immediately, and a figure suddenly sprang out from it.